I realize some people will question if this is true or not, and I can understand that. It's so bizarre and surreal that it seems to be the result of an overactive imagination, not an actual real thing, but you can believe what you will. This is what happened. I live and work in the very north of Scandinavia. I'm from the Sami people, and my family always lived a traditional Sami life, until it simply wasn't possible anymore. When the family farm turned into a tourist attraction, its biggest hit among the visitors was the dog sled experience. We would take them out in the evening for a tour with the dogs, showing them the stunning aurora borealis, and stop somewhere for coffee and traditional food cooked over a campfire. One afternoon, one of the guests didn't show for a ride, and the others simply went ahead without him. It was my day off, and I was surprised to see that the foreign guest was hanging around the property. Why he had decided not to go on tour with the rest, he was just simply traveling alone, a bit shy and silent, and looked very lost. I forgot the time, he explained to me, looking very disappointed that he missed out on the highlight of the trip to the exotic place. I promised everyone I would show them a video of this, but now it'll never happen, he sighed, and I felt sad for him. He was from Japan and he saved money for a long time to come here, and now he was missing out. Okay, I'll take you on a tour, I offered. After all, he had paid a lot to go, so why not? Since the real dog sled was already out, I offered to show him how to use a kick spark, so we could take one each to go for a ride. It was a beautiful cold night, and we stopped for coffee. We saw the spectacular aurora borealis. At that moment, something strange happened to this polite, shy man, and he started to become really, really flirty. Suddenly he told me that the god of the wilderness had spoken, and that we were meant to be. I freaked the fuck out, and told him to stop that nonsense, but he didn't. Instead, he grabbed my hand and pulled me close, trying to kiss me. I thought he must be psychotic, and the fact that we were out in the middle of nowhere, far from people, dawned on me. He tried to kiss me again, a crazy, dark look in his eyes. He started to act aggressive, and I tried to push him away, but he held onto my arm and started to try and reach for my scarf. He went on about how he had always dreamed of coming here with his wife, and now he decided that I was the one. When he tried to throw me down in the snow, I screamed, and before he could react, Lycka, my husky, had attached herself to his arm and hung on for dear life. The man started to cry and tell me that he was lonely and wanted to marry me and have a lot of kids. I told him that I don't want a marriage or any kids, and absolutely not with him. I also explained that I was going back now, and if he wanted, he could follow, or if he preferred, he could lie down and wait for the cold of the Arctic to claim his life. I told him that the wolves could do for a treat. During the ride back, I contemplated if I should report the incident to the police or not. You need to realize that the police in this area are pretty much non-existent, and something like this would not conjure much more action from anyone. So, I didn't. Once we came back, the man got out of the kick spark and started walking towards the main road, and the bus stop to take the bus back to the nearest village. I didn't bother telling him that he would have to wait a very long time for a bus to stop there, and that no one would pick up a hitchhiker here either. To all the creepy, overly lovesick people out there, never try and be violent with the woman who is the pack leader of a team of huskies. They might look nice and sweet, but trust me, mess with their owner, and you get the teeth in the blink of an eye. When I was 18 years old, I worked as a lifeguard in Toronto, Canada. I had been doing this job for 2 years and worked at a lot of different pools. I had picked up this shift that was every Friday night during 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. It was during the winter season, also known as the loser shift for people who didn't have anything fun to do on Friday nights. In early December, I was the only one left in the pool building on my Friday shift at around 10:30 p.m. The pool building is attached to a main community center that has an ice rink and a gym in it. But the pool building has a completely different entrance and parking lot than the community center. Anyway, I was about to lock up and drop the key off at the main building when I saw a girl waiting outside in the parking lot. She was around 10 years old, and I recognized her as one of the usuals who came to free swim during my shift. I was about to ask her if she wanted to come wait inside because it was freezing outside when the phone rang. I went back into the staff office to answer the call, and after I was done, the girl was gone. I assumed her parents had come to pick her up or something logical. I then grabbed my stuff, turned the lights off, and locked the door to drop the key off and then walk home. I was walking across the parking lot for about 15 meters when I heard a faint, muffled scream. I turned around quickly and saw a truck idling at the far end of the parking lot. It was kind of far away, and I had to squint my eyes to see what was going on. To my horror, I realized a man was bent over and struggling to get something into his trunk. I moved a little closer towards the truck and saw that the man was wearing all black and had a scarf covering half of his face. Then I saw a girl's arm trying to hold the trunk open, while the man was trying to shut it. She had her legs sticking out of the trunk too, kicking and also holding the trunk door open. I recognized her as the girl that was waiting outside before. I noticed her bright pink winter jacket. 2 seconds after I realized what was going on, I started panicking and looking for my phone in my bag. The parking lot was completely empty, other than that one truck. It was dimly lit, and the ground was very icy. I looked up once and found my phone at the bottom of my bag. The man stopped struggling to get the girl into the trunk and turned to face me. As quickly as possible, I turned around and started running back to the pool door. I looked over my shoulder while I was cautiously running, trying not to slip on the ice. He was charging towards me. I was about 10 meters away from the door, and he had gotten significantly closer to me. I started screaming, but it was hard to scream while running. I got to the door and struggled to get the keys out of my coat pocket. He was about 5 meters away when I unlocked the door and shut it behind me, then locked it. I called the cops on my phone and told the operator what was happening, and she said the police were on their way. It was terrifying to watch the man come right up to the door and try to open it, looking at me through the glass window at the top of the door. He banged on it and was yelling at me. I couldn't really hear what he was saying though. I then gave him the finger, and then I think he realized what was going on, and he took off. It was horrifying to be behind the building door and not be able to see what was going on with the truck and the girl. I heard sirens pull into the parking lot about 5 long minutes after he left. I then felt that it was safe to open the door and walk outside. When I got outside, the girl was running towards the police, and the truck was nowhere in sight. Turns out, he lured her into his truck, not really sure how, and then tried to abduct her. Once he stopped banging on the pool door, he ran back to his car, threw the girl out of the trunk, and then sped out of the parking lot to never be seen again. I gave the police my statement, and as far as I know, he was never caught. Here's a little bit of background before I get into the details. I spend every other weekend about 3 hours away from my hometown where my boyfriend lives, in Houston. When you drive from San Marcos area to Houston, you go on Highway 10 for the duration of the trip. Just one lengthy highway that will eventually turn into Katy. The highway on its own is creepy. It's surrounded by dim lighting and farmland, with the occasional small countryside town peeking up every so often to keep you awake. Usually, I take this drive during the daytime, but due to the holidays, I decided to leave in the evening. Here's where the story began. I had been spending Thanksgiving with a bunch of friends, losing track of the time. Soon it got dark and I knew I had to go home. I was already a little nervous because of the sheer lack of light in that 3-hour drive, but it had to be done regardless. I had work in the morning. I got into my little car, filled up, and started that long journey. I blared some loud music with heavy bass, and the rattling was entertaining enough that the drive didn't seem that bad. I was halfway down this long stretch of road, with only an hour left. That's when I noticed someone with their brights on and blaring coming up from behind me. I move over to the other lane, and this car was obviously in a hurry, and it wasn't in the mood to keep him from his destination any longer. A normal person would take this chance and speed along past me, but the car moved into my lane. I was confused, but I had cruise control set, so I tried to ignore the blinding lights in my mirror and kept going. Every so often, I would dare to peek up and this driver would still be behind me. They were awfully, uncomfortably close. That level of close where the rebel in you wants to start pumping your brakes to see if they will back off. Eventually, I tested it and started tapping on my brakes. Just as I'd hoped, the car added some distance. I was thinking that this little road game was over, so I continued on my way. I mean, where else was I supposed to go but forward? It was a Sunday after Thanksgiving, so the roads were pretty empty. It was easy to become acquainted with your road neighbors, and I could just tell this driver was not exiting. Cars would come and go, but an hour passes and they were still behind me. No biggie, I would think to myself, and soon I had to exit and make my way off the road and continue through Lulling. One of the smallest towns I've ever seen, and not a normal destination. Surely they will keep going on the highway, but they didn't. I took that dark exit, and my new friend followed me. Thinking it was odd, I had my voice recognition text my boyfriend. It was more in light humor, and in an attempt to not worry, reassuring me that I got a message back that it wouldn't be a big deal. I sighed and kept driving, reminding myself that they were going somewhere else and will turn off soon. Though, as soon as I turned far away from the main road and onto a farm road that would take me home, I had my follower close behind me. By now, the brights were still on and seemed even brighter. The car was inching closer and closer until they were at an uncomfortable distance and the lights were filling my mirrors. If it wasn't bad enough, they now had a habit of turning those horrible lights back to dim, then bright again, flashing, as if trying to flag me down. There was no way I was stopping. No thank you. At this point, my heart was racing. I've seen too many episodes of CSI and the like to keep calm. I've been driving for well over an hour. There was no way someone this huge would have the same exact destination as me. My town was a small college town, and the odds of someone at the same time with the same destination as me were slim to none. Granted, maybe I was overreacting. Either way, I can't lie, I was nearly in panic behind the steering wheel. I kept driving forward, my eyes almost glued to the rearview mirror that keeps my friend in view, hoping soon I'd see those blinding lights turn off at each driveway I pass. The front of that car so close that if I tried to stop, I fear it would cause a car accident. Soon, I came across my town. While it usually is a welcoming sight after a long drive, I'm stumped at what to do. There is some stranger that has been tailing me with no end in sight. I've seen those shows. I'm not supposed to just lead some crazy person to my house in the middle of the night. I don't know anyone else, or where to go, so I turned off quickly onto another back road, behind our neighborhood mess of a Walmart. I keep going until my apartment is well in view. I pass the first entrance, my follower continuing to keep up with me. Soon, I was just desperate to get home, and all logic went out the window. I came up to the second entrance and turned, my heart ready to jump out of my chest and escape if this car follows me. But they didn't. The moment I turned up that driveway, I could almost feel the relief my eyes gave as the blinding lights disappeared off into the dark road. I park as close as I can to my apartment, leaving all my belongings except for my keys and my phone. I ran up 3 flights of stairs faster than I've ever done before, and I only felt safe once I was behind that locked door. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of background information about myself. I'm female and about 5'6". I was around 15 or 16 at the time. I was a sophomore in high school, and back then, I used to smoke weed with my friends. Anyways, school had just been let out, and I got a text from my friend Megan, asking if I wanted to smoke some pot with her and her boyfriend. I said sure, and I met them at the park. That wasn't too far away from my house. We smoke, talk about school and the asshole principal, and soon the sun was almost down. Megan's phone began to vibrate and she answers a call, leaving her boyfriend and I alone momentarily. We talk about how our English teacher was practically a pushover and about music while we wait for her. She comes back and tells Devin that she needed to go home, so we say our goodbyes and go our separate ways. Here's the layout of my surroundings. We crossed a bridge and we were now on a bike trail. It goes 3 ways. One way leads to the park, another way leads over the bridge to the new housing complex, and another way leads to an unlit area. Lucky me, the way I had to go down was the unlit path. It had been around 8:30 to 9 p.m. by now. I watched them drive off, and that's when I noticed a light brown, almost tan sedan. Thinking it was one of the older kids who lived nearby, I paid no attention to it. I was about 10 feet away from where the bridge was when I heard a car door close. Again, I paid no attention to it and kept walking. Once I was in the darkest part of the trail, I noticed the beam of a flashlight move quickly to my side, as if someone was walking briskly. I began to slow down slightly, thinking it might be a police officer, and suddenly I realized 3 things. 1. If this guy was a cop, why didn't he stop me before I got into the dark part of the trail? 2. If he was a cop, why didn't he say something like, "Stop, police"? 3. If he was a cop, why didn't I see his cruiser? I immediately picked up my pace and began walking faster. It was fall, and I heard the leaves crunch beneath my feet, and his. He sounded closer, and I quickened my pace, telling myself that if his quickened too, he was following me, and if not, he was just walking on the trail. His pace quickened with mine. I began thinking that I might be in trouble, but then remembered that once I turn the corner to get onto the street that's perpendicular to mine, I can make a break for it. My speed hastens, and so does his. As soon as I turned the corner, I booked it. I kept running until I could no longer see the street that was perpendicular to mine. Once I felt that it was a safe enough distance away, I lightly jogged the rest of the way home. I sat behind the big weird plant that covered my porch, and called my best friend. I didn't tell him what happened, and I didn't even tell my mom. I actually haven't told anyone until today. I'm 19 now, and I've since moved to a different neighborhood. This happened to me last August. I had just moved about 300 kilometers south of my hometown in Sweden, and was gonna start university. The kickoff started a week before classes, and lasted for 10 days with activities during the day and evening the first week, and just evenings the second. It's a great way to get to know your classmates, and every activity is optional. Each night during the kickoff, we went to the nightclub, which is for students, by students, and is open every Wednesday during the school year, and every night during the kickoff, except for Friday. That's when this encounter happened. Instead of the usual nightclub, there was a pool party and the local swim hall with inside and outside pools, and a big tent outside which was filled with foam where you could dance in your bathing suit. It was really fun, and me and my new friends had a great time. It was after the pool party when things started to get a bit creepy. I didn't live close to any of my new friends and was gonna take the bus home to my student apartment that I lived in. It was a 30-minute bus ride, but I wasn't alone. Since the apartment I lived in was in an area with a lot of other students, there was at least 40 other students on the bus. That, however, also meant that I had to stand up quite close to the front entrance. After a couple of stations, we arrived at the one in the middle of the city. It was around 2 a.m., and some new people got on the bus. During one hard turn, One of the older men who had gotten on the bus accidentally stepped on my foot. This man was very intoxicated and smelled quite bad. He was also wearing a worker's outfit and had probably gotten drunk with some other friends after work. When he apologized for stepping on my foot, he tried to start a conversation with me. He seemed harmless enough, so when he asked a question, I answered. He asked me where I lived, which I answered the name of the area since it's a big one and he would never know my address. But when he started to call me his girlfriend and pinch my cheeks, I tried to get out of the conversation. I was a 19-year-old girl, was 60 kilograms and about 5'5". He was at least 40, and I only reached up to his shoulders. I almost started to panic, and I really wanted to get out of the bus, but since it was the last one for the night and still took too long to walk home, I decided to just ignore the guy. He started to get mad and didn't seem to understand why I was ignoring him. Finally, a guy my age stepped in and told the creep off. That guy was not the tallest, but still, he was very intimidating. He helped me get further back from the bus and away from the creep. When we reached the area where we lived, the older guy got off of the bus on the station before the last one where all the students got off. My heart was still beating faster from the incident. The guy who would help me, whose name was Eric, didn't let go of me until we had walked the 200 meters to my apartment building. He made sure I got in before he went home. To Eric, who had helped me when no one else did, and whom I've been dating for a year, thank you so much.